Have you ever had inspiration hit you and you were just ready to make a new design shirt? Hi, I'm Christina, and I'm super excited to be patterning a St. Patrick's Day shirt. Now, it is a little late to be patterning it this year, but I had some amazing inspiration with some EL wire that I'm really excited to incorporate into a shirt. I'm going to do a basic shirt with a kind of like a rib open up top here. The one major difficulty I'm going to have is I actually only have 33 inches by 60 inches for this fabric. So it's going to be a little bit of a tight patterning, and I'm going to have to double check stuff to make sure that it will fit in my 33 inches by 60 inches wide fabric, because it is a beautiful green fabric that is perfect for St. Patty's Day. But there's not very much of it. So I'm super excited to get started patterning. So I'm going to bring up my sloper pattern that I have drafted for my knits and stretches, and I'm going to get started patterning. I'm super excited. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to reflect this, not horizontally, the front, because I'm going to kind of have an asymmetrical neckline, and it's not even a neckline, it's just a detail, because I want the little 4-leaf clover to go kind of right over my heart as a heart 4-leaf clover. So I'm going to duplicate this so I can kind of work asymmetrically on either side. The other thing that I'm going to do, since I know that I'm going to be tight on fabric, I'm going to just raise my hem up 2.5 inches to start, because I do know that I always pattern this one a little bit longer just so that I have it and I can always hem up and trim away. And I do know that this pattern is a little long on me. So that is the other thing that I'm going to do, is I'm going to, I'm just going to draft a line. That's the length of that. I'm going to move it right on top. And it's not filled in right now. Switch that so that it is. And now I'm just going to move that up. Nope, negative 2.5. And I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Transform, move. Okay. Perfect. I'm also going to move those over. Whoops, not in, out. Just going to move those over just a little bit so I have a little bit of room for drafting. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm also going to add like a little belt detail, because I like those type of details, right at my waist. So, and then we're going to fill that line. That will make it work. There we go. And to make it a 2-inch thing, we're just going to go horizontal 0, vertical -2. And I want to make sure that I copy this one, not just hit OK, because I want to keep my original line. Then we're going to hit the direct select and lengthen. And that will be my basic belt of where that is. Now, the other thing I want to do, because since this is a sloper, this actually hits pretty high up on the base of my neck. So I'm just going to drop that. I think I'm just going to drop that just a smidge. So let's do 0.5 at 0. And now let's move that horizontal 0.5 down. And I'm going to do the same. Oops. I don't want to do it that way. Actually, I want to give myself a point. So sometimes when I'm trying to get an exact position on a line and it's not perfectly up and down, I like to give myself something that I can know exactly where the middle is. So I'm just going to move that horizontally 0, vertically 0.5. Gonna hit OK. And then I'm going to, and then I know right there in the center of that is my 1/2 inch. Let's copy that. And then we're gonna zoom in, paste it this side, and we're gonna do the same thing. Transform, move it, and this time I'm gonna go 0.5, 0. Okay. We're gonna rotate it on that point. Just a smidge more. There we go. So that's gonna be my new neckline. All of that, yep. So the next thing I also want to do is I want to add a little bit of gathers just underneath my bust to give my bust a little bit more room. And this fabric is stretchy, obviously, because I'm using my knits, but I want to give it just a little bit more of a detail, a little fun thing there. So what I'm also going to do is right here at the center, let's drop another line. Let's go 0.5 at 270. And then I'm going to select it, transform, move, and I'm going to move it out 2.5. And this time I'm going to copy it because I want to then mimic that on the other side, going the opposite direction, negative, hit OK. So that's in between there. That's where the start of the gathering is going to happen for me. Then I'm going to also drop to get a little bit more fabric in there to help it gather in and ease around my bust. I'm going to also, right at that intersection, I'm going to drop it 1 inch right there. And then I'm going to drop that 1 inch. Yep. Cool. And I want to add probably about 2.5 inches of gathers there. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to also add it out. So I'm going to go 2.5 at 180, like that, and 2.5 at 0, like that. And that's just giving me some basics to get through to kind of measure off of. Then I'm going to do, so next I'm going to pen in that rip away part where my little 4-leaf clover is going to go. Ooh. So I'm just going to kind of go probably about halfway down and up. Give it, and then I'm going to have to manipulate these guys a little bit. Now, unless I actually fill this in with like some knit or anything, this is just going to kind of probably, it won't maintain this shape unless I pattern it, back that pattern with something to actually help hold it there. You'll kind of see this shape, I think, but it won't be perfectly this shape. I'm going to shrink that down just a smidge. Now I know I need at least 5 inches. So I'm going to give myself 5 inches. So I'm going to pull that down, pull that up. And I don't want to get too close. I want it pretty close, but I do want a little fabric on either side, just because that's going to be easier when I'm building it, not to have to try to deal with whatever that wants to be. There's different ways I can do this. And I do want a little bit of a sleeve on this, which we're going to have to see if I can make that work with how little fabric I have. Hey, that's part of the fun, right? So that's kind of like those are my guidelines for the front there. I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. That's going to be tight right there. But to get those 5 inches right over the heart, I think that's what it's going to have to be. So that's okay. I'm going to go with it, and I'm going to fly with it, and we're going to see what happens. So the next thing I'm going to do, now that I have like all my base lines kind of drafted out and everything, I'm now going to trace. So I'm going to add a layer, lock that first layer. Ooh, actually, before I lock that first layer, I'm going to copy that pattern, lock that layer, and paste. Yes. Did I just paste it onto the correct layer? I did not. I want to be on that layer. There we go. Now I'm on the right layer. So now I have that as just a pattern, just in case I need it. I'm going to also put it right on top of it. That way, I don't have to retrace that. I could retrace it, but copy paste is your friend. So now I'm just going to go and pen. Now, if you hold the shift key, you will keep perfectly parallel and it'll move in increments. So that's always handy with those. And the great thing with this is if it's not 100% perfect, I can go back and adjust before I finalize. Make sure to re-anchor yourself and go out. And I'm going to go to the center, intersect, and pull. So yeah, if I hit shift, and you can see it goes in those 45-degree increments, which is really handy. Get that to be a nice curve and up. There we go. Looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is make sure I add on these notches so that when I'm looking for it later, I definitely have it. And that is super close. Whoa. Should we measure and see how close of a 1/4 of an inch? That's too close. That's definitely too close. So I'm just going to have to lower that a smidge. And I'm going to have to give up a smidge because I want to make sure that doesn't get too low. But I need like, I can probably deal with less than 1/2 an inch, but I definitely need more than 1/4 of an inch to get the facing to turn up and the neck to turn down. That's going to be a very close point. That's going to be fun. But there we go. Now that's my basic pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select it all, do a quick grouping so that it won't ever move away from itself. And I'm just going to move it up and kind of out of the way. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this belt. And instead of doing this axle, I'm going to give myself just a smidge of breathing room. And I'm going to give myself a rectangle right here. Out to those edges, it's giving me basically 1/4 of an inch of extra breathing room right there at the bottom. And then I am also going to make sure to mark these matches so that I know that they'll line up. We'll be able to line those up so I know right where the gathering wants to start. And B. And I'm also going to give myself a center line marking. Grab those ones, group it. And I'm just going to move him up and out of the way a little bit as well. And move on to the bottom. So because I did, let's see, I'm actually going to move that down just a smidge. Here we go. Because I did give myself about 1/8 of an inch on either side, I want to make sure that I do that. So when I moved it up, I made sure not to move it left or right at all. Just moved it straight up. And now I am going to trace this guy out just like that. And there we have that. Now, I was a little low right on this side. So all I have to do is just go in and fix that. There we go. Now, the other thing that I know that if I don't do, it's going to cause me problems later in my patterning, which I should have done as a prepping earlier, is I need to drop this front line a little bit. So I'm just going to add an anchor there, and I'm going to pull that anchor down an inch, and then I'm going to curve that and pull it out. Because what we're going to do is we want to make sure that we have a nice, our stitch lines go nicely from the front seam to the back seam. And if we don't do that, it's going to be a much more pointed thing, and then you'll either have to trim off that once you cut it out, or you'll have to adjust it and true up your pattern a little bit later, which we'll be doing in just a second. So there we have it. There is the front all patterned out. Super exciting. Now it's time to trace out this back. I'm going to leave this back super simple because I am super low on fabric. So we're just going to trace it out. And it looks like, okay, for whatever reason, oops, my line that should be there is not, and I don't know why. So we're going to just make another line. And we're going to move it up. Not horizontally. We're going to go -2.5. There we go. So that's the line. Because I am short on fabric and I know this pattern is a little long, I'm immediately taking my 2.5 inches off. And I can actually, since I have it on this layer, I'm just going to continue this around. So there we go. And click. Ooh, you know the other thing I didn't do, which I got to do before I finish this. So let's zoom in. So on the front, I moved the neckline from here 1/2 inch over. So I need to make sure that I do that again. So let's get a point going. There we go. And move it to the center. Transform, move. We're going to go horizontal, -0.5, 0. And then we're going to rotate. Rotate. There we go. So that's my new line that I'm going to be going to. And I'm just going to continue this pen. There should be an anchor right there I can get onto. Straight into the center. Right up to the back. Oh, we're going to drop that. I should probably measure that, but I'm not going to. Don't tell on me. There we go. Click that anchor to get that solid there, and then finish it off. There we have it. So the next thing we're going to do, we're just going to make sure to give us some hash marks really fast. So we know right at this waistline that I have, because this pattern is trued before I started, and the 2 angles is where I started, that is exactly where it's going to hit. So I'm going to do a line at 180, just like that. And it's okay that's a little over because I want to actually go through and I'm going to curve that line a little bit. Then I'm going to grab it and transform, move, not horizontally. We want to go -2 and hit copy. Because if you don't hit copy, well, you'll just have to go back and put the line there, which will be okay too. There we go. And then I want to smooth out this. Ooh, I'm not far enough away. So we're going to smooth out that line. Oh, that was not what I wanted to do. So that smoothed out every single corner. You don't want to do that. Control Z is your friend. Make sure that there is no dots in the middle of that circle. And you will not be looking every angle in your pattern a curve, because that's not cool. There we have it. There's our back. And the last thing I want to do, he is still, exit isolation mode, layer 10. I'm just going to copy paste. Oh, so I had only A. I only had one line selected. V, copy, and now onto layer 11, paste. There we go. And I'm just gonna make that disappear for right now. So because I know I'm gonna be super tight, I'm gonna do a cold shoulder because that'll give me a little bit of less fabric to work with. Something like that. Something like that, yeah. And then I'm only gonna do a 2-inch one at 270. That's really short. I'm gonna go for 2.5 inches and hope. And I can always cut it off. Oops. I can always cut it off once I'm actually cutting out my fabric. I like that a lot better. Yeah. So what I'm going to do to move this pattern is hit A. And I'm just going to bring that anchor point up right to that guy. And then we're going to negative those ones. Gonna drop another line, 2.5. And we're going to move an anchor point. There we go. Nice and wide one. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this guy apart. Now I want to cut, sure, I can delete him, select the outer one, cut him, cut, oh, got the wrong pattern piece. I want this pattern piece. There we go. Then I can highlight that, delete him, but it's not a full pattern piece. So I'm going to highlight, Control-Shift-Alt-J, and Control-Shift-Alt-J. And there we have it. There's the sleeve. There is my pattern. Pretty simple, pretty exciting. Now all I'm going to have to do is add the seam allowance. I have to double check that this is going to fit. So what's really great about Adobe Illustrator is I can actually draft a rectangle that is 33 by 60. That is the size of my fabric. It's tiny. It's going to be close. So, I think, did I group? Okay. Last thing I forgot to do. Gonna line those up. Give myself one more pen mark. There we go. Move it off. Oh, come on. Wasn't there two? Okay, it didn't pen. I don't know why it didn't pen. But I'll pen it. There we go. And then I can highlight those two, shifts. Boop. Group those. Okay, here we go. So now let's see if we can get these guys to fit. So I'm just gonna do a copy paste and take a gamble. I think I'm gonna have to cut it cross grain. And I think you're gonna have to go somewhere else. Ooh, yeah, we'll have to see. Because, oh, that's tight. And we need two of them. So let's reflect it, copy, pull it. Yeah, so it looks like what I'm going to have to do, because I want most of it to be on the same grain, because if you're messing with the grains too much, you're going to have some problems. So what I'm going to do, hopefully it doesn't screw me up too bad, is I'm going to put my sleeves. Oh no, I didn't want to move it. I want to transform it and I want to rotate it to 90. Yeah, there we go. And I want to reflect it. horizontally, copy. They're basically the same. Yeah, that's what kind of happened to the stretch. Let's see here. Well, it's going to be tight. It's going to be very tight. But it looks like it's going to work because right now this is no seam allowance, which is the other thing you kind of have to be aware of. So they all need to be, I can serge it together. I'll probably only add like 1/2 inch of seam allowance onto this pattern in full. Yeah, so we're looking good. Ooh, it looks like so right here you can see I dropped some notches, which is probably, yeah, I dropped these guys' notches. So that's good to know. I'm going to go quickly grab him and group. That way I have those notches for when I'm actually cutting it out and patterning it, because those notches will actually help make sure that you can sew it quicker, faster, quicker, not quicklier. That's a funny word. Those notches will definitely help you out to make sure that you're getting all the right pieces to the right areas. And that's this super exciting St. Patty's Day thing that I just dreamed up and whipped up, even though it's like super close to St. Patty's Day. I'm super excited to get this sewing, and we will see if it turns out. So definitely check back and see how this shirt turns out and see how I put it together. We will, or definitely like and subscribe if you want to see more fun, quick patternings, kind of like this shirt. And we will see you in the next video, hopefully with a light up shamrock shirt. We'll see ya.